Tracy, thanks for the introduction, putting it together. Thank you guys for coming. I've been traveling all over the state for many weeks. I can tell you within this last week, 10 days, focus on this conference has been one of the key things that I've heard people commenting about. I was on a public radio station in Kansas City yesterday. We were talking about the Ogallala conference. I've been in Wichita, southwest Kansas, people talking about the Ogallala conference. So people are focused on this and seeing we've got a need and a chance to really do something significant that we need to talk about as a state. And be very sincere, be very forthright, and forward-looking. I love the comment on Eisenhower, and that sounds just perfectly right about, you know, the plan's worth nothing, the planning is worth everything. It's once you get into battle, battle takes over. Or it's the great Mike Tyson quote, the fighter, he would say, you know, everybody when they got in the ring to fight me, they always had this great plan when they got in the ring, and then I hit them. And you're going, that's kind of life, really, is that, boy, I got this great plan, and then, bam, you get hit, and you go, oh, well, there went the plan. But the planning process, which brings people together to talk about what we need to do, is critical. And it needs to come from the people that have the water resource, and that's the Ogallala region in this particular case, and that's folks here. There are several very important groups that are here today. Well, everybody is. But a couple I want to recognize in particular, and one in particular is the state legislature. They're the ones that ultimately will have to look at this issue and say, okay, we think it should move this way or that. And we've got a great group of legislators that are here today. Now, this is the list that I've got. I know I saw, let's see. I know we had Senator Ostmeyer is here. Ralph is here. Ralph, hold your hand up. Good. Got him from local here. Sharon Swartz is here. Sharon. Tom Sloan came out with us from Lawrence. Tom thinks this is such an important issue. He wanted to come out from his area where they're not as water short to be here as well. Representative Steve Brunk from Wichita. I saw Steve here. Saw him yesterday. Ward Cassidy. Ward, they've had too much rain. You've had it in St. Francis. Is that what you were commenting to me to rub it in a little bit? And then I also had down on the list Steve Alford was going to be here. I don't know if Steve is or not. Steve is here. Good. Rick Billinger from Goodland is here. Thanks, Rick, for being out. Don Heineman. I saw Don. Don's here. Thanks for coming out for this. Ron Reichman from Meade is here. Ron, thank you for being here. Senator Mark Tadigan. I didn't see Mark. Mark did make it. Good. Glad to have them here. And are there some other legislators that I didn't recognize? This is who I had on the list. I recognized. Okay. The reason I want to point them out to you is if you got an idea, and during one of the breaks, that would be the key person I would buttonhole. Not to put the people on you folks, but they're here to listen like I am. We know we got an issue, and you're going to see the facts in blunt data today. You're going to see the blunt data, and we all know it, but you're going to see it. And it's going to be laid out in front of you, and these have been, this is a well-researched aquifer. We know quite a bit about this aquifer now. We didn't when it first cracked open for irrigation. We know a lot about it now. And we want to see it conserved and extended. I want to see the economy grow in this region of the state. And the economy in this region of the state is critically important to the overall state of Kansas. Listen to this. I didn't realize this till yesterday. Somebody was pointing it out to me. The 1st Congressional District of Kansas is the #1 congressional district in the nation in terms of value of agricultural products marketed. #1 in America. Now, when they first asked me, they said, what do you think the top economic producer of ag products congressional district is? I thought, well, I bet it's somewhere in California and a bunch of the vegetable production area or something like that. No, it's here. This is it. And the top 5 counties of agricultural sales in the top congressional district in the country represent 24% of all the state agricultural sales in this state. Top 5 counties represent 24% of that $14 billion industry. All of them are situated in the heart of the Ogallala. Scott, Haskell, Finney, Gray, Grant. The Ogallala counties account for roughly 2/3 of the state's agricultural economic value. Now, a lot of that supports a beef industry. Beef is 60% of our agricultural receipts, but it has a base underneath it, and it has an economic reason why beef is located here. We all know that, and the integration of it has been enormously beneficial for us as a state, for us to grow the crops, feed the cattle, in many cases grow the crops, make the ethanol, then feed the cattle with the byproducts, harvest the cattle, process the cattle, move that out in the region, and we're expanding that into dairy. And we'd like to expand it in other areas of animal agriculture, and we've got an animal agriculture summit in Garden City. Dale, do you recall the date of that? September 28th is that, because we want to see this expanded. We don't have a future without water. Water is the critical component to all of this. I mean, people are a critical component. Water is the essential ingredient for us to make this continue to flower, and the people in this region have done an enormously high-quality job in making the agriculture bloom in this state. A fabulous job, just no question about it. And this is a bit of an aside, but I want to compliment people that are dealing with the drought right now, as much of our state is, on how well you are doing dealing with that drought. Several of us last week took a drought tour, as Tracy was mentioning. We were in Elkhart, which there, a guy told me, and I didn't realize this, that he grew up in the Dust Bowl eating tumbleweed, which I didn't think you could eat that stuff, but he says it tastes like chicken. I mean, it did. Actually said spinach, but and then I asked the crowd how many people there had eaten tumbleweed, and about 1/3 of them had in the Dust Bowl. How many of you have eaten tumbleweed before? I got one here. That's all from Hugoton. So, but what I want to compliment you on is the amazing ability that you've had to handle this drought so well. We are getting less rain than during the height of the Dust Bowl. We probably are having more heat. I haven't compared this. I believe we've had more wind, and the dirt is staying on the ground. It's not lifted. And it's a compliment to agriculture in this region that this thing is being handled as well as it is. The people, it's no-till farming. You don't move the soil. Leave the residue on top of it. Spreading the manure from the large cattle feeding operations on the land to hold the soil down. Conservation Reserve Program has been a very effective, helpful thing. Irrigation in some areas. But I mean, the mixture of that, if we were in the same situation we were in the 30s, this dirt would be blowing all the way to Washington, D.C., which is what happened in the 30s. And we would be worse because we've had less rain. But compliments to you that you've managed this so much more effectively. And that doesn't get away from the fact that we're having huge crop failures. And we're pushing the system. Senator Roberts, which, by the way, we've got representatives from Roberts, Moran, and Ewell's Camp's offices. Could each of you stand if you're here? Because I want to make sure people know where you folks are. Thank you guys for being here. Now, let's give them a round of applause. Now, because they're pushing to get the CRP land be able to be grazed and baled without paying the 25%, and then we're also trying to get where, if you're interested in this, talk with Tracy at the break. If you're irrigating, you've got a failed crop because of the heat, that we're working with adjusters so you don't have to continue to irrigate to be able to get the payment. Now, there is some guidance, and you better look for the specific guidance on this so you don't lose your insurance payments, but I want to just put that out. What we have got to do is get in a position to continue this great agriculture economy of this region, to grow it, and to conserve and extend that aquifer. This is what we want to get done. This is what we need to get done for our future. The idea is the push for it, the support for it has to come from the Ogallala region. It has to come from here. That's why the new head of the Water Authority, Gary, that's going to be talking, I hope you're speaking some here today, just a little bit, is a user of Ogallala water as an irrigator. And I specifically went to Gary and said, we need somebody from this region to do this, to bring these ideas on forward. And then he has brought forward a group, an advisory group on the Ogallala, saying, okay, we want the ideas to come from here to go to the advisory group for us to mature those so that they can go into a legislative session of discussion. One of the items that I think it's past time that we do is repeal the use it or lose it doctrine in water law. That's a basic of Western water law. It has been since water law started in the country. It is no longer applicable to us in the state of Kansas, in my estimation. Now, it has been mitigated in many respects already. And a lot of people say, well, that's not that big of a discussion anymore. The fact that it remains in people's minds, I think, is significant, and I think it should be repealed and taken away, because we've got to get from that mentality to a conservation mentality, which most of you are in now anyway. And so I hope that that's one. But also then we've got to look at how micro-specific the Ogallala is. Walking in here, somebody was telling me that their area of the water table has actually gone up over the last 3 or 4 years. They've had some rain in their region, and you can go to areas in the state, it's gone down and down fast. So we need to look at this thing on a micro basis and provide management opportunities on that sort of basis as well. And then I'm always given more to markets than I am to regulation. I'd love us to look at more market mechanisms rather than regulatory ones as we move forward. This is a key discussion. It's a key discussion for our economic future as a state. When Secretary Rodman toured the western part of the state, as Ag Secretary came back and told me every meeting either started or was highlighted or was the key issue in his discussion in agriculture in the western half of the state was on water. It was about water. And it's time we engage it in the great spirit of Dwight Eisenhower. And just the final point on that, this is our sesquicentennial year. This is a great state. There's been a fabulous number of people that have come through here and are still here doing wonderful things. We're going to start recognizing more of them. Here we're going to have a top 25 Kansans. We had a history panel already has picked them. We're going to roll that out later this year. We're going to have a 100-year-old event at the State Fair on the Thursday of the State Fair. And it's going to be air-conditioned and handicap accessible. But anybody and everybody in the state that's a centenarian, over 100 or older is going to be invited to share some of their wisdom. I want us to be able to look back at the year 200 and say, people made some wise choices about their limited water resource, to the point that they can look and say, they were really thinking about us, weren't they? They really were. Let's have a great conference. God bless you all.
Thank you, Governor, for those opening remarks. The Governor will have an opportunity to lead us in a roundtable discussion here in a bit.